Good morning! It's time for Tuesday Tales. Today we're going to read a story about a famous inventor named Lonnie Johnson. Can you guess what he invented? I'll give you a second to think. I'm going to give you a hint. It's a toy and it is super cool. You probably play with it in the summertime when it's really hot outside. So it's not something we play with now when it's super cold. Lonnie Johnson is a famous inventor, and we're reading this story this month in part to celebrate Black History Month. So let's get started. This is called Whoosh. This is Lonnie Johnson when he was a little boy. Now this book is called Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's Super Soaking Stream of Invention. The book was written by Chris Barton and illustrated by Don Tate. Let's hear about Lonnie's story. Every day brought a different challenge for young Lonnie Johnson. He didn't know where to keep all of his stuff. There were 6 kids in his family, and they all lived in his parents' small house in Mobile, Alabama. There wasn't enough room to keep his... Let's hear about all the things Lonnie had. Oh my goodness. Bamboo shooters, rubber band guns, erector sets, go-kart engines, bolts, and screws, and other spare parts his dad let him bring home from the shed, and various other things he'd hauled back from the junkyard. So it looks like he's working on his kitchen table. Where do you like to build and invent? Is there a special spot in your house? He's hard at work. Whoa, look at that rocket. Lonnie learned how to make rockets like this from scratch. Kids at school gathered to watch him launch them into the sky. He even learned how to make rocket fuel. He once set his kitchen on fire, but his mom didn't get mad. She just sent Lonnie outside. Lonnie wanted to spend his whole life designing things, but when he was younger, he took a test, and it told him he wouldn't make a very good engineer. Lonnie was a little disappointed, but he knew the person who had graded the test had not met his robot, Linux. Let's see. Wow, there's his robot. Inspired by a TV show. Do you know what the word inspired means? That means that the TV show gave Lonnie this idea to create this robot named Linux. Lonnie made Linux out of scrap metal. He was inspired by the TV show, and he named it Linux. Compressed air cylinders and valves allow Linux's body to turn and its arms to move. The switches came from an old broken jukebox. Lonnie used a tape recorder to program Linux, and the reels looked like eyes. The one problem was that he didn't have a transmitter to get commands from Lonnie to his robot, so he couldn't enter Linux into science fairs. Science fairs came and went, and Lonnie still was at home with Linux until he had an idea. He borrowed his sister's walkie-talkies and made them work with Linux. His school's team took freshly finished Linux to a 1968 science fair at the University of Alabama, where only 5 years earlier, African-American students had not even been allowed. Having to compete in a place that still wasn't very welcoming, that was a challenge with a capital C. But Lonnie's team took first place in the science fair with Linux. Lonnie soon left home to attend Tuskegee Institute. This was a college where he stood out as a self-confident, insightful, and creative thinker. He even built his own sound system out of different electronics that had lights that flashed in sync with the beat. Sometimes Lonnie would even do his homework during his parties. The extra studying paid off. He became an engineer after he graduated, and that took him way beyond Alabama. What do you think his job was? He worked for NASA. Check it out. When NASA was sending an orbiter to Jupiter, the space agency needed to ensure that there was enough supply of power to the orbiter's computer. Lonnie designed a lightweight backup system. Some people at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory didn't think Lonnie's idea would work, but it did. As the Jupiter probe Galileo photographed Jupiter and its moons, it was powered and supported by the package that Lonnie had designed. Much of what we know about Jupiter could have been at risk in a power failure if not for Lonnie. Ideas for other problems to solve just kept flowing. For instance, Lonnie knew that refrigerators would need a new kind of cooling system. The cooling system that they had been using used a chemical called R12 that wasn't very good for the Earth. So Lonnie made a pump and a nozzle and connected them to the bathroom faucet. He turned on the faucet, turned up the pump, and then whoosh, look, it blew the curtains. The stream of water blasted across the bathroom, and it was so powerful, it made the curtains blow in the breeze. This, thought Lonnie, would make a great water gun. Did you guess what the invention was? First, Lonnie had to make some parts, including a pump that was small enough for kids' hands. Then he had to glue the parts together into a prototype. A prototype means an early version of something that leaves a lot of room for improvement. Lonnie took the water gun outside to test. The kids were so excited. He worked the pump and squeezed air into the chamber, and then he pulled the trigger, and air escaped with a whoosh. Lonnie wanted to make more water guns, so he went to toy company after toy company, but they all said no. The word no flowed again and again and again, but Lonnie didn't give up. Finally, someone said yes. Lonnie decided to quit his job and invest all of his time and resources into building more water guns. He worked and worked and worked. But soon the plan fell apart. Oh no, Lonnie didn't have a job or any money, so he and his family had to move out of their home into a small apartment. Lonnie was sad, but he had dealt with hard things all his life, and he knew a lot about solving problems, and he believed in his invention. He went looking for another toy company. In 1989, he found a toy maker who was interested in seeing the water gun, if Lonnie ever happened to be in Philadelphia. The inventor said, "I'm going to jump on a plane right away." And he did. There's Lonnie on the airplane. In his wife's suitcase, Lonnie carried a new prototype. He unpacked it, filled the tank with water, pumped the gun until the air pressure was good and high, and whoosh. Let's see what happened. Whoa! The water sprayed over all the people at the toy company. They loved it, and so did kids everywhere. The Super Soaker water gun, so that's the invention, the Super Soaker water gun. The Super Soaker water gun became a smash hit. There were Super Soakers in backyards, on beaches, in parks, on playgrounds, and every sale of a Super Soaker put a little bit more money in Lonnie's pocket. So what did Lonnie do? He got a bigger workshop, which is where you'll find him today. Because facing challenges, solving problems, and building things are what Lonnie Johnson loves to do. And his ideas just keep flowing. Yes. And that's the end. That was Whoosh. This book is available to check out along with lots of other ones. If you have any questions, feel welcome to get in touch. We would love to help. Bye-bye.